I think we are live.
Hopefully.
Hello. We just have some people watching out there. Let's see if we can get a thumbs up to make sure they can see us. Hey.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. This is our first webinar for Insights. Today, we're going to be taking a look at our software, Insights for ConnectWise PSA, and specifically one of the features in it called Suggested Fixes. So first of all, we'll just introduce ourselves. We have, to my left here, we have Mr. Mark Pennington. He is the CEO of Insights. He also is the Managing Director of EPX Technical Services, which is an MSP here in the UK. Him and his business and all the people that work in it have won numerous awards, as you can see, because they're very clever people. And he's also a business growth mentor.
Perfect. And to my right is my colleague, David Coleman, who is the CTO of Insights. And Dave actually has built and exited 2 technology businesses in the past. He is an AI and automation consultant. He works with businesses in the UK to help and aid in their transition towards AI and automation. And also for sins, he's a technology YouTuber.
Right, thanks, Mark. Right, what are we going to learn today? Well, first off, what is Insights? Let's take a look if I get the right button here. Right, so here is ConnectWise. We are in a service ticket, a screen you're probably very familiar with. And here on the right-hand side is Insights, our software. So it lives as a pod inside every service ticket, and it's full of features designed to help IT technicians solve problems faster. But today we're going to be looking at one feature in particular, which is the suggest possible fixes. So if we just pop back to here. What we're going to learn today, we're going to learn the old way of doing things when it comes to solving problems and getting help with how to solve problems that appear in tickets. We're going to look at how Insights helps with solving problems by suggesting fixes within the context of what's happening in a service ticket. And then we're going to pass over to Mark. He's going to have a look at how to integrate it into your ticket handling processes. And then he's going to have a quick look at the ROI for it. So first off, what do I mean when I say the old way of doing things? So in our example, a support ticket comes in and the client has said that their Outlook search is not working. What happens when an IT technician is faced with something like this and they don't know how to fix it off the top of their heads? Well, they Google it and they open up tab after tab, looking through things like Stack Overflow, Spiceworks, Reddit, and if you really get desperate, Microsoft TechNet. So they'll wade through all these pages, not only looking for answers, but first off, they've got to find someone that's had the exact same problem. Only then can you start looking for answers to it. And obviously, this is all very time consuming. And when you've got a load of tabs open, it's very easy to get sidetracked. So let's take a look at how Insights differs and helps with this. We've zoomed in right on my face here, Mark. Hope you don't scare people. Right, so back into Insights in the pod. And this ticket, just as a reminder, the problem is Outlook search not working. So we'll just press this button and we'll let it run, and then we'll explain what happens. So what the system has done is it has read the ticket to pick up the context. It's looked through all the ticket notes, the summary, what the customer's been saying, and it writes out the situation at the top here to show that it's understood what the problem is. We can see the user reports that the search box in Outlook returns no results. If the technician has put notes into the ticket already, so they've tried something, it will list what they've tried here, and it will take that into account when making suggestions. Next, you can see that it has given the list of suggestions here, and it ranks them in order of simplicity and likelihood of solving the problem. So there's a good few things that you can look through to get your teeth into. You'll also see when I hover over things, all the suggestions, there's a button that says how. So if we press that, it goes off and it gives you a how-to guide on how to carry out that suggested fix. Now, we find this very helpful. For example, when there's a junior technician or someone that's being trained up, not only does it give them a list of things to try, but it also tells them how to do those things in a step-by-step guide. And that's obviously very helpful because it stops you having to pull higher paid, maybe more experienced technicians off other tickets in order to help the person that's being trained. So we have found it helpful for training new people. Also, secondly, this big list of ideas that it gives, even for seasoned IT pros, sometimes they'll get stuck. And just looking down that list, it might just see one thing that sparks the idea that helps them to solve the problem. So just as an overview, it saves time. The Insights suggested fixes feature saves time because your technicians don't have to spend so much time just trawling through Google. It gives the answers right inside the ConnectWise support ticket where you already are without having to leave the ticket and change context. It also gives results that are in context of the ticket. It knows what the ticket's about and it takes that into account when it gives you those results. And as we've said, it helps to train new technicians. So that's basically the feature in a nutshell. If you've got any questions at this point, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll pass over to Mark now, who will talk about how to fit this into your ticket handling process. Thank you, Mark.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. So with tools are great, but actually, how do you integrate them? How do you ensure that your team are using them effectively and you're getting the most value out of them? So as part of, obviously, we've developed Insights as a tool that ties into ConnectWise. But what we really are proud of is the fact that when we work with MSPs, when we onboard MSPs, it's working with them to make sure they're integrating Insights as part of their processes. So typically we approach it from a ticket handling process. So when we onboard new MSPs, we really understand, how do you currently handle your tickets? How do you guide your engineers to make sure that they are doing what they should be doing? So to support that, we have an example ticket handling process. So yours will look slightly different to this, or you might not have one in place at the moment. That's absolutely fine. But we find this is quite a good illustration to explain how we integrate this as part of your process. So on the screen, you'll see that we have our level one, what we term as a level one team. So it's your entry level, probably your least experienced engineers that are picking up the tickets first. And what would naturally happen is they would pick up a ticket and they're working the issue. And within the ticket handling process, we would be expecting them to try and fix it themselves without really any assistance for the first 15 minutes, because things like password resets would typically require assistance for that, depending on the engineering experience. So can they resolve it themselves? If they can, notify the client and everyone's happy, ticket gets closed. Now, if they're not able to resolve it themselves, what do they currently do? Now, quite often they'll lean on other engineers, or they'll escalate it quite too early. So what we want to do is try and aid those first level engineers to self-serve. What can they learn and find out themselves? And this is where we start integrating Insights into our ticket handling process. So when looking at the diagram on the screen, the first purple box, so if they try to resolve it themselves and have not been able to, we have other features within Insights, one being review-related searches, and we also tie into internal documentation systems. That's the first point of call. We've not covered this in this webinar at the moment. We will be doing that in future webinars, but that's the first point of call. What have you already got within your ConnectWise PSA? That could be pulled out and presented to the engineer. If that resolves it, great, they close it off. If not, that's when we go on to the suggested fixes feature. That's when we go out to the internet, we take the context of that ticket. Hopefully they've tried to fix some other, they've used previous tickets to try and aid in resolving that, which means there's always some more context to it, and they'll refine those suggested fixes. That's when that comes in. If that's not able to resolve, then that's where we start pulling in the other engineers to aid and support that engineer in terms of resolving that ticket. And that's where that knowledge transfer happens internally. But what we're aiming to do, and that's what we're seeing, is can we get your engineers to self-serve, figure this stuff out for themselves, train themselves as part of that? And what we find is, especially for new engineers coming on board, they become a lot more productive a lot quicker because of that. Now, if they're not able to resolve that, because obviously there's some tickets that do need escalating, we ask them to summarize it, update the notes, and then escalate it to the escalated team, however you've structured that. So the other aspect to that is then, how does that look like from an escalated engineer's perspective? And what we have then, you may have it structured in a slightly different way, where you've got your level 1, level 2, level 3. You might have it in different, depending on how your business is structured. For us, we keep it simple, level 1 and escalated. So the escalated engineer will pick up that ticket. And they will verify, there's some internal accountability, they'll verify whether Insights has been used by the level 1 team. If there hasn't been, they pass it back to make sure that they're actually learning, they're actually trying to do what they should be doing. So there's some internal accountability there. Again, if they have and that they do need to work the ticket, again, spend 15 minutes trying to fix it. They might know what the solution is for that. And if they're not able to resolve it themselves, again, that's when they will use the related ticket feature and suggested fixes. And again, because the first line engineers already covered, hopefully, the key basic points, when they use those features, it should already factor that in for the next suggestions and actually give more complex, more in-depth, more created results, hopefully point them in the right direction. And again, if that work, then they'll go down the peer review, vendor support, discuss it as a team, and hopefully resolve it in a timely manner. So again, just to cover the point, when we work with MSPs, the onboarding process is quite important, just to make sure we integrate this as part of your process. If we find, if we're being honest, if you install it without going through this process, getting engineers to change behaviors because they're so used to going to Google the solution, even though we're presenting it straight within the ticket, it can be difficult when you don't integrate it as part of your processes. Perfect. So the next part is, what does that actually look like from a potential ROI? So these are just rough numbers that we've got for that. So what does that actually look like? So typically we're seeing, especially on first line, engineers closing about 20 tickets per day per engineer. So when you're looking at their fully loaded hourly cost, how much does it cost for them, not just the salaries, but benefits, taxes, all that sort of stuff. We see in the UK, it's about £25 an hour. Within the US, it's about $30 an hour. That could be variable based upon location, benefits, all of those sorts of things. So, just have that as consideration. And then how many minutes per ticket do we see Insight saving? Now, typically, we're seeing between 2 and 10 minutes, depending on what the ticket is. So we're being slightly pessimistic on 4 minutes for the moment, but that's kind of what that scenario is. And when you extrapolate that and assuming a 17-day working month, you've got potential saving of around 1,300 minutes of actual engineering time that you could potentially save there. And in terms of actually financials, in terms of potential savings or capacity creation, you're looking at about £560 or $680 a month per engineer. And if you then extrapolate that further, if you have a typical first line team of about 15 engineers, which is what we typically see, then you potentially have £8,500 a month, or nearly just over $10,000 in potential savings or capacity creation when you extrapolate that out. Now, what we like to do is you can actually go and play about the numbers yourselves. If you go to insightsmsp.com/pricing, we've got the pricing calculator up there. You can put in the number of engineers, you can put in how many they're closing, how much your fully loaded costs are, and again, how many minutes you think it could save for that. And when we look at the minutes, we do look at all the features within ConnectWise, and we'll cover more features in future webinars. But have a look at that and see what that looks like for yourselves. Brilliant, perfect. And then finally, what's the investment? What's the pricing? Just so we can put that into context. So we've got some potential savings, but what does it actually cost? So currently, Insights, we price it standard pricing as £250 or $300 per month for a block of 5 engineers, and they're done in blocks of 5 engineers. Now, we do have an Evolve member offer. We are Evolve members, have been Evolve members for 6-7 years, so it's something that we're passionate about and something we want to give back to the community. It's the same pricing, so it's £250 a month or $300 a month per branch, but we give unlimited engineers for that. So if you've got 10, 15, 20 engineers in a branch, it's a fixed price just for that branch. That's how we price it for that. So again, if we typically look at what potentially savings there are for that, so the cost price being £250 for 5 engineers or $300 for 5 engineers, you're looking at potential savings for that of around £3,000 or $3,400 per month. Again, have a look at the pricing calculator, see what you think from that as well, because you can have a look at all those numbers there. And we do have a guarantee. So if you're not ecstatic about using Insights for the first 2 months of sign up, for any reason, no strings attached, we'll give you a full money back because we're convinced that actually you will see the value from insights. So we do have that, we do have faith in it. And again, that gives us an opportunity to work with you as part of the onboarding and making sure that you understand that we can integrate it as part of what you're doing and you're really seeing the value part of that. And you can go off now and actually go to insightsmsp.com/sign up. It takes 20 minutes to sign up, doesn't it? So it's not a long process. You do get a 2-week free trial. So even before the 2-month guarantee, you could trial it for 2 weeks just to see how it fits, how it feels within your organization. We can have a meeting with you talking about onboarding and talking about how that actually looks like, how we could integrate it fully within your MSP as well during that time. No problem at all. Great. Thank you, Dave.
Okie dokie. At this point then, I will ask Mark to have a look at the chat, see if we've had any questions come in. While he's doing that, I would just like to count the number of times you can see insights on the screen after realising we've probably gone a bit brand heavy because we've got our nice sign, we've each got our shirts. I just realised we've got our mugs as well, and it says it twice at the bottom of the screen. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 instances of insights. So
I think we can get more in later.
Yeah, that's our next challenge. Next webinar, more insights.
More insights. Right, so we've got one question. So if an engineer's tried different fixes and not worked, will it take those into account? So I think briefly covered that, but
yes. So any time you try a fix and it doesn't work, as long as you put it in as a job note, so the next time you press suggest fixes, it's able to read that job note and take it into account, and then that will affect the fixes that are given. So it won't give the same fix again, and it'll say, okay, that didn't work. What else could it be? Try these instead.
Perfect. Okay, so I've got another one here, which is sorry, 1 second. Oh, there's a question coming in. So the 4 minutes per ticket sounds like a lot. Can we explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. Can we do that?
Yeah, so that's probably best for me to explain it actually then. So when we're looking at the ROI calculator, so like I said, I briefly mentioned it, that the ROI calculator takes into account all the features of insights. So when we're looking, and we'll cover it again in future webinars, that we have job notes creation, related ticket features, password generation. Yeah, there's quite a few aspects in there to help engineers resolve tickets quicker and things like that. When we're looking at the average, we're seeing between 2 and 10 minutes. Now, some tickets, you don't need insights at all because the engineer knows it. They can they can just update and fix the issue themselves or do the request, and they just don't need that. So some instances they're not required, but some instances, especially bigger, more chunky ticket.
Like if it would have taken ages to do loads of research on Google, you've got the suggested fixes, the related tickets, which we'll cover in another webinar, looks through all your previous tickets to find if you've solved the problem before. That saves time. Then the job notes generator, again, that saves time. So on some tickets, it could save upwards of 20 minutes per ticket, but on average, it is between 2 and 10, depending on the MD that we work with. So we've gone with 4 as kind of at the lower end. We'll still see that it makes good sense for the ROI.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Some more?
Yeah, got a couple. How accurate are the suggestions?
Okay, well, it's contextual, the suggestions. So if somebody submitted a ticket that just says Outlook's not working and there was nothing else to go on, then obviously the suggestions are going to be quite vague. The more information you can put into the ticket, the more detailed the initial request is, the more detailed the job note, the more context it's got to give better suggestions. And the feedback that we've had is that when it's got the right context, it's actually very good. And some people have thanked us for helping solve problems that they couldn't solve themselves. It was in one of the suggestions that they hadn't thought of. So we're very confident that that you'll get some good mileage from it. Give it a go.
Perfect. All right, we've got a couple more coming in. There's one about password generator, but I'll probably leave that till the end at the moment. But can the suggested fixes be added directly into the ticket as a note?
It can indeed. I'll just switch back.
Yeah.
I was going to show this actually, but I forgot. Next to each of the suggested fixes, along with the How button, we've got literally a button that says Add to Notes. They probably saw that, and that's where the questions come from, I guess. And what you can do is build up a little to-do list in here in the job notes generator of things to try. And as you try them, if you tick them off, it puts them in the done section. And then when you're ready to insert a job note, you press generate job notes, it writes that into a specific format and it will insert it straight into ConnectWise for you. So yes, that's another way that it'll save time. I think the next webinar, we're going to cover that in how to save time writing job notes.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Right. And then we've got, right. So we've got someone saying, I've been using password generator update and I really like the improved customability. Could there be an option to have special characters at the end instead of random places?
Yes. I know this is off topic, but we will just dive in. Password generator, patterns words. Oh yeah, good call. Here's a password generator. That was me playing with it a few days ago. On the pattern generator, you can click whatever you like. So we can have a word with random casing, a dot, a few uppercase characters, and then you could put as many special characters right at the end as you want. And it'll always be at the end there. It'll always follow the pattern. So if you've got a specific way you like making passwords, then it'll show up there like that. So a bit off topic, but yeah, glad to have answered. Anything else, or do you think, are we good?
I think that's all the questions at the moment. So I think unless there's anything on lastminute.com, I think we'll probably wrap up.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'll just pop this up on the screen, hide us. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your time. I know it's precious. I'd like to invite you to our next webinar, which will be on the 16th of October, 2025 at 3 p.m. British Summer Time, which is 9 a.m. Central or 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is on how to make writing job notes super simple. If you'd like to scan that QR code, you can register for that webinar right now. You can also, as a reminder, try Insights right now inside your MSP by going to insightsmsp.com/sign up.
Perfect. And we promise to have more branding.
We will get Insights as many times as we can. Thank you very much. If you have any more questions, reach out to us. You can email us. There's a contact form on the website. Email us, add us on Teams, whatever you like. Thank you very much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure, and we can't wait to see you next time.
Thank you.
I feel like a newsreader now, smiling as I go for the end event button. Bye.